My name is Felita, and I'm the owner of Seasons Candle Company. In these videos, I document my journey of becoming a small business owner, whether it be my mistakes or my successes, anything that I've learned, any tips and tricks that I think may help you along your journey. In today's video, we're going to talk about the dreaded wax to fragrance oil ratio, and I'll discuss what I've learned, and hopefully it'll help you along the way. If that sounds like something you would be interested in, please stay tuned. So this is what I found, being relatively new to the candle industry. Of course, I did my due diligence in trying to, do my research and find out what I needed in order to make the safest, most effective candles possible. And what I ran into was that there was a lot of information out there as far as fragrance oil, wax amounts, fill lines, and it was just mind-blowing. And I had to actually start going through that information myself and applying rational skills to determine what was true and what was false and what was kind of in between. And this formula that I'm about to go over with you today is what I found to be the most accurate for the type of fragrance oils that I am using, as well as the types of wax that I will be using. I do want to go ahead and preface by saying, number one, I am by no means a mathematician, nor am I, what else? I'm not a teacher, but this is just what I've found, and it works for me. This is not a formula that I made up. This is just some things that I've pieced together from different people, different websites, and I'll try to list those in the description below, and that way you don't have to take my word for it. You can actually look at those things for yourself, and you can make an informed decision on your own. So what we're doing today is finding out what it takes to fill a container. So for me, if I have this container and I say, hey, I want to make a candle, what will it take for me to make a candle in this particular vessel? So there are two things that we need to know. The first thing is if I can spell. The first thing that we need to do is determine our wax amount. And then the second thing that we need to do is determine our fragrance load. So these two things make up a candle. So once we have those two things, it doesn't matter the size of the container that we have. We can apply the formulas that I'm about to go over for any of those containers. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is determine how much wax we need to fill this jar. Now this is an 8-ounce jar. We're not going to be able to fill this jar completely full of wax. Well, first of all, we won't be able to fill this jar completely full of wax because there is an actual fill line for each container. That means the most comfortable level that this jar can be filled without overflowing, and just without anything going wrong with the particular jar. So this particular jar, although it's an 8-ounce jar, there is a 6-ounce fill line. So our formula starts with saying your net weight divided by 100% plus your fragrance oil. So the first thing that we need to determine is, what is our fill line? The fill line for that jar is 6 ounces. even though we're looking at an 8-ounce jar, I'm sorry, my dog just came in. We're looking at an 8-ounce jar, and we're going to use a 7% fragrance load. But that 8-ounce jar can only comfortably hold 6 ounces. So we have a 6-ounce fill line. So, is everybody with me so far? Although you may have a larger vessel, you cannot fill that vessel completely full of wax. There is a fill line. The fill line for our jar, our 8-ounce jar, is 6 ounces. The very first thing that you need to do in order to complete this formula is change your ounces to grams. Now what I did was I just went into Google and I typed ounces to grams. And what pulled up was 6 ounces equals 170.097 grams. So now we know what our fill line is. Our fill line is 170.097 grams. So 6 ounces converts to this 170 grams. So the second thing that we have to do is apply this formula. We know what our net weight is. That's the 170. And then we have to divide by 100%. And you're probably wondering, why are we dividing by 100%? Well, we do want our jar, our vessel, whatever our vessel is, to be filled to 100% of whatever that fill line is. So that's why we're using 100%. So I guess theoretically, if you didn't want 100%, if you wanted 50%, you can change it to 50%. But most of us want a full candle. So that's why we use 100%. And then you're going to have to add whatever you want your fragrance load to be. We decided that we're going to use a 7% fragrance load. Pretty easy. We know what our fill line is, or our fill weight. And then we're going to divide it by 100%, and then we're going to add whatever our fragrance load is. So, what we're going to do, y'all remember this from school, you have to bring down your net weight or your fill weight. So that's 170.097 grams. And what we're doing here is adding this amount. We're going to add 100% plus the 7%. And that's going to give us 107%. So, we know what our fill weight, our fill line is, the 170. We're going to divide it by the 107. And that's going to give us, once we work this out, it will give us 158.96 grams. Now this is our wax amount. Remember, our fill weight for our wax. This is for our wax. That was pretty easy. So we're going to run through it really, really quickly again. You have an 8-ounce jar. You can't fill that 8-ounce jar all the way. So there's a fill line or a comfortable line. And that's 6 ounces. So we convert this 6 ounces to grams. So our 6 ounces converted to grams is 170.097 grams. Our formula says we're going to take our net weight, we're going to divide it by 100% plus whatever our fragrance load is. So that's 170.097 grams divided by 100% plus our 7%. We're going to add 100% and 7%, and that's where we're going to get this 107. We're going to divide that 170 by the 107, and that's going to give us our wax weight, which is 158.96 grams. But unless you want a candle that has no fragrance in it, we're not done. So get a copy of that, and we're going to move on to the second step Remember when I said there were 2 steps? You have to find out your wax weight or your fill line for your wax, and then we have to go and we have to find out our fragrance load or the amount of fragrance oil that we need. I already have it set up for us. We're going to be looking at, let me grab the jar for you. Okay, we'll be looking at a 4-ounce tin, a candle tin. A 4-ounce tin or a 4-ounce jar, and we're going to do a 9% fragrance load. So, I guesstimated at what the fill weight would be. I looked everywhere, couldn't find anything on it, and I'm sure it is somewhere. I went to the company's website, couldn't find it. Anyway, guesstimated 3 ounces. And this is like real life stuff. This is what I actually did when I got this vessel. Net weight equals 3 ounces, which is my fill line. That means that I cannot put more than 3 ounces of wax or substance in this container without it being unsafe. So our formula to find out the wax amount reads the net weight divided by 100%, because we do want to fill it to 100%, but we also want to add in fragrance oil. So let's work this out. The first thing that you do is convert your ounces to grams. So I went to Google, I typed in ounces to grams, and it told me that it was 85.0486 grams. So 3 ounces converts to 85 grams. We're going to divide it by 100% plus 9% fragrance load. Now what we're doing here, we're adding this amount. 100% plus 9% gives you 109%. That's easy math. So now what we do, we divide. And that's going to give us 78.02 wax amount. So let's run through it again. We have a 4-ounce tin. We can only fill it 3 ounces. We have to convert our 3 ounces to grams. So 3 ounces converted to grams is 85.0486 grams. Now, I did this the long way. You don't have to do it the long way. And I'll have it in the description below to where it's not like drawn out like that for you guys. But anyway, it is 85.0486 grams. We're going to divide it by 100% plus our fragrance oil amount, which is 100% plus our 9%. So the 85 grams divided by the 109, because we're adding 100 plus the 9%, which gave us 109. When we divide that, it gives us 78.2% of wax, which is our wax amount. So that's how much wax we're going to need to fill our jar. But again, unless you don't want a candle that doesn't have fragrance in it, we're going to have to figure out what our fragrance oil is. So let's do that. And now we're figuring out our fragrance oil amount. Now what we started with was a 4-ounce jar. We can only fill it 3 ounces. 3 ounces converted to grams is 85.0486 grams. So we're all caught up. Our fragrance oil formula reads your net weight minus your wax amount gives you your fragrance oil amount. And let me just put what our wax amount, we came up with 78.02 for our wax amount. So we have all of that worked out. So net weight, which is the weight of our jar, is 85.0486 0.0486 grams minus our wax amount, which is 78.02 grams. And that will give us 7.02 grams of fragrance oil. And again, if you add this amount and this amount, it should give you that amount. So that is how you determine how much fragrance oil and wax you need for any type vessel. So it doesn't matter. You can go to the dollar store and find a vessel that you like. If it has, all of the information you need, you can plug those numbers in and come up with what you need to fill your jar, or whatever it is that you're filling. Most of us don't just make one candle. The other thing to that is you can multiply your wax weight and your fragrance oil amount by the amount of vessels or candles that you want to fill. So if you want to fill 6, you multiply that by multiply each number by 6. The other thing that I wanted to tell you, I know there are a lot of fragrance oil calculators or wax to fragrance oil calculators out there, and they're great. Whenever I work my formula, I always go to one of those formulas to make sure that I am doing it right, to make sure that I'm within a reasonable amount, if I'm off. And this formula, like I said, has been spot on for me. Now, what I have found is that a lot of times I can go to some of those calculators, and for whatever reason, sometimes it's not working. They'll freeze up. What if I have an order that I have to get out, or I'm trying to do some testing? I can't wait until that person or people get their site back up for me to determine how much wax and fragrance oil I need. So I always think that it's a good idea for you to know how to come up with those numbers and why you're doing it. And I think going over it this way, it helps solidify to me what it was that I was actually doing, through each step. So I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you're going to be able to apply it to whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's candle jars, whether it's wax melts, whatever it is that you're doing. I hope it helps you out. What I'll be doing in my next video, and I also have it linked for you guys, is we'll actually work these formulas. We'll put these numbers to the test, and we'll see if what I just went over is actually correct. So stay tuned. It's coming. Bye, y'all.